Coming up on this Monday edition of Newsline at noon, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe won a resounding election victory on Sunday with his ruling coalition securing a strong majority in the upper house. High on Abe's agenda is a constitutional revision to strengthen the role of Japan's military. The two Koreas start their fifth round of talks to try to break the deadlock in their efforts to normalise the jointly run Kaesong industrial complex. The outcome of today's talks will be critical to the fate of the project. Plus, a heavy rain warning has been issued for Korea's central regions. The downpours blocked public access to several areas, including a number of flooded subway stations in Seoul. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
Where's the best place for bibimbap?
Les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver se dérouleront-ils à Pyeongchang?
هل أنتم حقاً سابع أكبر مصدر في العالم؟
この歌手は誰ですか？你好，最近哪部电视剧的人气最旺？
Korea is attracting interest from around the world. The more you know, the more you want to know. Dynamic Korea.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at noon. I'm Choi Yu-sun in Seoul.
Good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. We kick things off in Japan, where Prime Minister Shinzo Abe won a decisive victory in major elections Sunday, setting the stage for Japan's first stable government since 2006.
However, critics worry the hawkish leader will pursue a nationalist agenda rather than focusing on the economy. Our Kim Young-gil reports.
After 7 months in office, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his coalition government won a strong majority in Sunday's upper house elections. Abe's Liberal Democratic Party won 65 seats, the highest number since the upper house election in 2001. Abe's coalition partner New Komeito secured 11 seats. Every 3 years, half the members of the 242-seat chamber stand for election. With Sunday's victory, LDP alone doesn't control the upper house, but the coalition now has a comfortable majority of 135 seats.
We received overwhelming support from the people for our policies of improving the economy and creating stable politics. We'll continue going forward with our brand of politics.
In a victory speech Sunday, Abe said he would focus on fixing the world's third biggest economy through his economic policy dubbed Abenomics, which mixes hyper-easy monetary policy and increased government spending. The LDP is also calling for revisions to the constitution supported by the Japan Restoration Party and Your Party.
As for changing the constitution, we will change all the clauses all at once, but we'll do it slowly in stages and let the people vote on it.
However, critics also worry Abe may shift his focus to a nationalist agenda that has long been central to his ideology, such as revising the country's post-war pacifist constitution and recasting Tokyo's wartime history with a less apologetic tone. Such a shift may further strain ties with Korea and China, where bitter memories of Japan's past atrocities run deep. Since Abe's coalition government came to power last December, Japan's economy has grown by 4% and the stock market by more than 40%. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Now, the two Koreas are now onto their fifth round of working-level talks on the issue of normalising operations at their jointly run factory zone in North Korea.
And for more details, we connect live to our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee at the Inter-Korean Dialogue headquarters here in Seoul. Hello, Sung-hee, give us the latest.
Guys, less than a week after their fourth meeting, the two Koreas are back at the negotiating table. Like you said, this is their fifth round of working-level talks as the two sides try to normalize business operations at their jointly run factory zone in the north. Officials began discussions at around 10 a.m. this Monday morning, and opening the remarks, they actually began the meeting with remarks on the weather. The North Korean chief delegate said that while the weather is becoming gloomier, the two sides should try to remove the darkness by conducting a productive discussion. In response, the South Korean official said heavy rain is bound to lead to a clear sky and added that he hopes the prolonged shutdown of the business park will become a strong foundation for improvement of the complex. Operations at the factory zone have been suspended for 3 months now since the North unilaterally withdrew all North Korean workers amid an escalation of inter-Korean tensions. Earlier this month, the two Koreas agreed in principle to reopen their joint business park, but have been unable to reach an agreement on the conditions for doing so as they remain divided on some of the key issues. Seoul has been demanding Pyongyang provide safeguards against future closures before reopening the business park, whereas the North is calling for an immediate resumption of operations. Now, some experts are saying that the fifth round of talks between the two Koreas will be crucial in determining whether business operations at the border town will be normalized or whether it will eventually lead to a complete shutdown. Guys?
Well, thank you very much, Sang-yi. That was our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sang-yi with the latest on today's inter-Korean dialogue, and she'll be bringing us more updates throughout the day. Now, government officials and experts from South Korea, the US and China have gathered to seek solutions to the North Korean nuclear issue in Seoul on this Monday.
Lee Do-hoon, the ambassador of the North Korean Nuclear Affairs Bureau, Robert Rapson, the director for Korean Affairs at the U.S. State Department, and Chen Hai, the Chinese deputy chief of mission, are leading the talks behind closed doors. The group is expected to discuss the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and President Park Geun-hye's plans for building trust with North Korea. The South Korean government said that the most important goal of the upcoming talks is to strengthen communication and cooperation with the two countries. The armistice agreement that brought an end to the 3-year-long Korean War was signed on July 27, 1953, and both Koreas will mark the upcoming 60th anniversary in their own ways. While South Koreans quietly reflect on the conflict each year, North Korea has designated the day as its Victory Day. And this year, Pyongyang is getting ready to throw a huge celebration. Our Kim Hyun-ji has more.
July 27th this year marks the 60th anniversary of the signing of the armistice agreement that halted the 3-year-long Korean War. In South Korea, the Korean War is described as the tragedy of fratricidal war, a kind of violence that must never be allowed to take place again. But North Korea celebrates the signing of the armistice agreement as Victory Day. To this day, Pyongyang maintains it successfully resisted the American and South Korean forces, who it says came to sign the armistice agreement holding a white flag. It looks like this year's Victory Day celebrations in North Korea will be especially big. The Voice of Russia reported earlier that Pyongyang sent invitations to the world's major media outlets, including China's Xinhua news agency and CNN. For this rare occasion, with so many foreign journalists in town, some say it's possible North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may offer to give a one-on-one interview during the celebration period. North Korea also says it will showcase a new version of its Arirang mass games in commemoration of Victory Day. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama is scheduled to attend a ceremony marking the 60th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice Agreement in Washington this week. A diplomatic source in Washington says President Obama plans to deliver a speech at the Korean War Veterans Memorial on Saturday. South Korean President Park Geun-hye is expected to send a special delegation to the event, which is hosted by the U.S. Department of Defense. If President Obama does attend, he will become the first incumbent U.S. president to take part in a formal ceremony to mark the Korean War Armistice Day. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
Turning now to the ongoing hunt for the missing transcript of the 2007 summit between former President Roh Moo-hyun and then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. Officials spent the entire weekend looking for it, but again came up empty-handed. They're now making their last attempt to find the document on this Monday. Our Jun Ju has the details.
4 representatives of the ruling and opposition parties once again paid a visit to the National Archives of Korea on Monday morning in a last-ditch effort to find the original transcript of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. After the document was nowhere to be found last week, both parties agreed to spend 4 more days searching for it and report the final results to the National Assembly Steering Committee on Monday afternoon. Now, if they eventually succeed in locating this document, the two parties are expected to return to the original task of looking into whether late President No actually suggested giving up the de facto maritime border in the West Sea, the NLL, during the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. But if they fail to find the transcript, it will likely result in a fierce clash between the ruling and opposition parties on which administration should be held responsible for the missing document. The Senate Party claims the Liberal No administration destroyed the transcript, while the opposition has raised the possibility of the following Lee Myung-bak administration putting their hands on the document. The main opposition Democratic United Party claims someone during the Lee Myung-bak era broke into the computer network system used at the presidential office of Cheongwade during the previous No administration. Political experts have also hinted at the possibility of prosecutors opening an investigation should the dispute spiral out of control. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
For your fill of Korean and international news, join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
Now, heavy rain has been pounding Seoul and parts of the Gyeonggi and Gangwon provinces since the early hours of this Monday. The rain has tapered off a touch here in the capital, but more is in store this afternoon.
So let's get a quick update on the forecast with our weathercaster Lee Ji-hyun, who joins us from our weather center. Hello to you, Ji-hyun.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, as you guys said, today is the rainiest day of the year so far here in Seoul. A heavy rain warning was put in place at around 7 this morning, but it was withdrawn about an hour ago as the rain has subsided a touch, as Mark mentioned. The rain has flooded some places with parts of the Gangnam area turning into a temporary river again, making the 6th flood since the year 2000s. Now, the pedestrians' access along the Cheonggae and Yangjae streams have been blocked due to high water levels, and low-level Jamsu Bridge, which crosses Seoul's Han River, has been closed to vehicles and pedestrians until further notice. Now, if we take a closer look at our radar, the rain clouds are passing through the southern parts of Gangwon and Gyeonggi provinces, dropping up to 50 millimeters of rainfall per hour. And as I mentioned earlier, the rain has thinned out in Seoul, but not in Gyeonggi and Gangwon. So if you're in that region, don't make any unnecessary trips, and please check the weather, road, and traffic condition before heading out. Well, that's all for me now, but I'll be back shortly with more updates.
All right, Ji-hyun, do keep us updated later in the newscast.
Yes, and from the weather to banks now. And Korean banks are expected to initiate restructuring programs that could cut bankers' salaries and could even take their jobs.
This comes as major banks have seen their earnings shrink in recent months due to interest rates that have been kept low and credit risks the nation's large companies are facing. Our Hwang Jie has the details.
Local banks in Korea have recently seen their earnings drop, which could prompt them to take action. The net profit of 7 major local banks in Korea for the second quarter this year is estimated at around $1.5 billion, according to financial information provider FNGuide. That marks a huge drop from the same quarter last year and the previous quarter this year. The decline is due in part to an interest rate that's been kept low for months, shrinking the bank's interest income and the credit risks large conglomerates like STX Group are facing. Some affiliates of the shipbuilding company have been undergoing a creditor-led restructuring program. In times like these, the newly appointed presidents of 2 local banks have emphasized the importance of restructuring programs.
The low growth and low interest rate policy has been in place for a long period of time, prompting concerns about profitability and fiscal health. We need to become a small but strong and efficient company. This is more than empty words for us. It should be a challenge that we must overcome.
KB Financial Group and Hana Bank are planning to significantly cut the salaries of their board members. They have yet to determine the exact amount of the cut, but many local banks are expected to follow in their footsteps. The Financial Supervisory Service has also ordered the banks to close branches that have posted losses. But if all these measures fail to help the banks improve their performance, experts say the banks may have to start cutting staff. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
As part of efforts to end illegal inheritance and tax avoidance, the Korean government is trying to establish a market to trade gold here in Korea. Officials of the Financial Services Commission and the ruling Saenuri Party agreed on Monday to form a task force by the end of this year to prepare for the gold market. The ruling party floor leader Choi Kyung-hwan said the new market will help root out black market tradings in gold and make it difficult for wealthy people to use gold as a means to hide their assets and pass on their wealth to their offsprings without paying tax.
Egypt is beginning the process of amending the country's constitution despite deep political divisions and widespread pro-Morsi protests, pushing ahead with its ambitious plan to hold elections in just 6 months' time. The military-backed interim government says it has asked a panel of 10 legal experts to come up with proposed changes to the constitution within 30 days. Once complete, the panel will put its recommendations to a larger body. The original constitution was approved last year, but it has been heavily criticised for failing to protect human rights, minorities and social justice. Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood, which wants nothing to do with the interim government, held fresh protests in Cairo Sunday to demand Morsi be reinstated. Syrian troops have been accused of a new atrocity, this time killing 13 members of the same family, mostly women and children, in the northwest of the country. The anti-Assad Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the victims were from the mostly Sunni Muslim village of Beida, near the coastal city of Banias. In May, government-controlled militias were accused of killing more than 50 people in Beida and over 60 locals in Banias. Beida is home to a small pocket of Sunni Muslims in the Mediterranean province of Tartus, a stronghold for Assad's own Alawite sect.
Angry crowds have thrown stones at the police and set fire to cars in a western Paris suburb after a Muslim woman was told by police last week to remove her Islamist face-covering veil. The unrest began with the arrest of the woman's husband, who is accused of trying to strangle a police officer. Following Thursday's incident, hundreds of people attacked the police station where the man was detained. The suspect was released on Saturday and is to appear in court at a later date. On Sunday, a car was driven at police, but no one was hurt. Wearing the full face veil in public has been banned in France since April of 2011. Crown Prince Philip has been sworn in as the new King of Belgium following the abdication of his father Albert II due to ill health. 53-year-old Philip took the oath Sunday in a colorful ceremony in Parliament. The new king faces a political challenge of mediating between the French-speaking region of Wallonia and Dutch-speaking Flanders, where support for independence has been growing. Tensions between the north and south of the country have brought down several governments in the past. In his final address, outgoing King Albert II said he hoped Belgium would stay united.
Now to an incident causing some outrage not only in Australia but around the world. US fighter jets dropped 4 unarmed bombs onto the Great Barrier Reef last week after a training exercise went wrong. The 2 fighter jets of a Marine unit were supposed to drop the bombs at a bombing range on a nearby island, but Tuesday's mission was aborted after the crew learned the area was not clear of hazards. The US Navy said the 4 bombs were dropped away from the coral to minimize the damage to the natural preserve. None of the bombs exploded, but environmentalists are angry, saying the bombs should not have been dropped on a World Heritage Site. Now, a surge in migrant workers in Korea is helping alleviate a growing labour shortage in the domestic construction market. However, a higher rate of accidents due to language barriers has prompted companies to beef up safety measures and come up with innovative training programs. Kim Yeon-bin takes us to the site of this growing foreign workforce.
Construction on the Honam high-speed railway is in full swing at this tunnel site near Sejong City. Though final completion is at least 3 years away, the growing number of aging workers in this field has led to concerns of labor shortages. Attracting local residents to replace these blue-collar positions has been difficult, but new foreign workers have been eager to fill any vacancies.
The labor supply in the domestic construction market has not been favorable. As a result, there's a growing number of foreign workers. However, since the workers come from different countries, communication problems lead to difficulties with safety precaution activities.
Construction here inside the Karsan Tunnel can be highly dangerous, and even a slight miscommunication can significantly raise the risk of accidents.
Speaking Korean is a difficult task while being on site. Korean has always been hard, but we are familiar with all the work. We've experienced a lot of hardships as a result.
Out of the total 200 workers at this site, some 20% are foreign workers. It's becoming a common trend among local construction companies as more workers from countries such as Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines come to Korea. In order to ensure the safety of personnel, the Korea Railroad Authority is making safety guidance materials available in other languages.
Since foreign workers are working at various locations and because it's not possible to bring along interpreters everywhere, we are producing videos to provide practical training.
The Railway Authority says over 2,100 foreign workers are employed at 90 sites nationwide. All the more reason for additional safety education for this new wave of foreign workers, who are helping to drive Korea's key industries. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
Well, let's check in with our Lee Ji-yeon once again for the latest on the heavy rainfall we've been getting here in Seoul and also other parts of the country's central. Hello there, Ji-yeon.
Well, hello again.
Yes, well, it's been raining cats and dogs, hasn't it, here in Seoul? Not so much now, though, and the surrounding area of the capital is still getting lots of rain. But in your previous report, you said something rather interesting. You said that the Gangnam area had turned into a river of sorts, which will obviously make things very inconvenient for a lot of people today, considering it's one of the busiest districts in Seoul.
Definitely. Well, it caused a lot of trouble for morning commuters, and it looks like it won't be any easier for evening commuter as well. But it's not just the Gangnam area that's been wrecked by torrential rain today. A heavy rain warning was issued at about 7 this morning, but it has lifted just about an hour ago, and it caused a massive flooding in some places in the central region. And it's likely to rain throughout the day, so do not make any unnecessary trips, and please check the weather conditions, road and traffic conditions as well before heading out. Now, meanwhile, the heat wave will persist down in south with a chance of passing showers in the afternoon, but it won't be enough to bring down the temperatures. Now, we are expecting more of the same tomorrow. The monsoon front will continue to drop showers over the central region for the first half of the week, and the later half of the week, it will be the southern provinces. So cities in south will finally get some relief from the heat later this week. Well, right now, as we can see, there are clouds covering the peninsula, dropping heavy rain in the northern parts of central regions, and the humidity level this afternoon will be 90% on average. So with that, let's take a closer look at today's readings. Now, most of the rain has thinned out in Seoul. Capital has started at 25 and it will reach 28 degrees Celsius. That's 82 degrees in Fahrenheit, and it will be another scorching hot day for Daegu and Gwangju, while Busan will get up to 31. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will have sunny and hot day at 33, while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang will climb up into the mid-20s. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. Well, that's all for me today. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Certainly looks like a fun show there, but those are the stories we're following at this hour.
We'll be back with up-to-the-minute news coverage tomorrow right here on Newsline at noon.